Well, hello there, friends. Happy Monday. Welcome to Unified Premiere and welcome to the semifinals. My name is Chief Cass. Sticula is joining me in the booth for this beautiful semifinal match of Mystic versus Gusic.
Yeah, this is going to be a real interesting one. You got Mystic, who have been at the 9 and 5 pretty regularly, just got done casting Lemieux and I actually yesterday in their game over in the First Blood Academy League. Now they take the stage in the semifinals with an opportunity to step forward to the grand finals and perhaps reenact the same best of 5 grands that we had just in the previous summer season. On the other side of the field, it's not really the new kids on the block, but it's one of the hottest, most talked about teams in T3. Team Gusic have had a surprise run to close the regular season and are now springing into playoffs despite the fact that they failed to qualify for FCS.
Well, let's actually see who the representatives are of these teams, Reese, because as you're alluding to, we have just some of the best talent currently in amateur Rainbow Six Siege on the side of Mystic, Tones, Doc. Apex is a new face to me, Sweater, and Newers. Can you shed more light on who Apex is?
Apex is actually Apex Predator, otherwise known as
Oh,
Splash.
oh,
But
that makes sense.
I don't believe that he's playing tonight. I think it should be Gunner
Gunner.
replacing Splash. That was a roster move that happened about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And then on the Gusic side, there is one little note as well. We do not have Narmu. I believe he had to drop off the Gusic roster because of maybe some work obligations. But to who is replacing him, I don't know.
Funny, I actually thought it was like Mr. B that was subbing in for Gusick at some point.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's double sub upon double sub, which is concerning to me because Team Mystic has a record of 6-1 in the regular season, and Team Gusick has a record and 5-2. These teams were in different conferences, so they never actually got to play against each other. So this is really the first time that they're meeting, at least in Unified Premier. But refresh me on this. Did they play this weekend in SCS quals?
Ooh, that's a bracket question that I would have to go drop. I did not get a chance to watch every single one of the qualifier games,
Too
but
many
I
games.
don't remember. Yeah, right. A lot of Swiss games that they played over there. But I really don't remember hearing much out of that matchup. Looking for Gusick now. Ooh, no, I don't think they ended up playing. I think just because it's Swiss, maybe Gusick were behind on points or something like that, so they didn't end up playing. Maybe they did in the first qualifier. If they did, I'm not aware of it.
Well, let's move over to the maps and see who we're playing today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a best of three, and what we've seen in Unified Premier Race, it's been the same story over and over again, the same rotation of maps, and well, the storyline does not break today for this semifinals as Cafe,
Not at
Clubhouse, and
all.
Oregon as a decider.
Yeah, I was halfway expecting Gusick to do something like pick Bank randomly as their own selection there, but no, they're gonna go to Clubhouse. Maybe this indicates that they are trying a little bit more. A point that I wanted to tag on to the discussion of rosters and the potential for a substitution over there on the Gusick side is it feels like they almost always play with subs. In fact, there was a situation the other night where they were playing in SCS quals at the same time as they were playing in the DAL, the Digital Athlete League. So how they were playing in 2 different matches at the same time, there was a lot of substitutes going on. And I think Gusick is kind of just a free-flowing team. There's not a lot of scrimming from what I know, or maybe there is. Really, it's kind of hard to guess there. If there are substitutes, I think that would possibly negate the fact that any practice is going to have a real effect here.
I want to touch on that point one more time because that is the most fascinating statement I've ever heard playing in two leagues simultaneously. It's not like we can do like a collegiate special where you play on somebody else's account because you're actually on your account playing in a live match. That doesn't work. You can only have 8 registered players to your team, and you
Mm-hmm.
need 10 players to field 2
I
teams
think
simultaneously.
I
Unless you
think what
speedrun 7-0.
happened Right. I think what happened is they had their coach play, so maybe he counts as a member of the starting roster. So you have like 3 of the starters in one game, 2 of the starters and the coach in the other, and that way you don't break the 3/5 rule. Really complicated scenario there, and I don't have the info to clarify on it. But as the maps are revealed, I honestly think this is probably going to be a pretty cut and dry one. And personally, Brian, I expect a 2-0 out of Mystic.
Well, can we go that far? We saw Mystic play yesterday on Clubhouse against it was Surf, and they lost
Right.
round 15 overtime and one of the most heater matches that we've seen in a long time. And in fact, the first map of the day was Oregon, our decider for this series, also around 15. Mystic
Yeah.
was able to win it, but I mean, for both of those maps, I mean, honestly, either team could win. Now, of course, Surf is not playing today. They will be playing in the grand final because of the forfeit that for the game yesterday, the
Yeah.
other semifinal. So it's very likely that Mystic will be, well, replicating that in the later portions of the week, but we have to get through this series first.
And thanks for bringing up that forfeit situation as well, so I can just update all the viewers on the potential for programming that we'll have this week at UPL. As you know, we run Monday through Thursday, and we have games every single day. It's just one match per day. Obviously, with that other semifinals game being forfeit and Surf moving to the grand finals, there will be no R6 coverage tomorrow. The Wednesday is a maybe, and I'm going to tell you why. Wednesday is when we play the third place decider game. So if the team has already forfeited the semifinals and they don't want to, they don't care to get into the grands, right? Does that maybe say that they're probably not going to play in the third place game, which is essentially just for money to get yourself into the prizing? And another fact here at UPL, the past 2 seasons, the third place game has been forfeited both times. So there's kind of a historical trend there that it might not happen. And I would expect, still watch Twitter, see if we do have that game on Wednesday, but expect the finals on Thursday to be a really good one to your screens.
I don't know why somebody would want to FF a match because, especially when it's for money, man, like you've been
Yeah.
grinding 7 weeks of the league plus postseason, and then you enter to the final week of the league and you're like, yeah, I'm going to FF now and not take my cash. Like you put so much darn effort into the league, you may as well get something out of it, right? Like that's the ultimate goal. Or you can have fun too. Like, why not just get your mates and play the series and just I guess 7-0 spawn peak.
Yeah, another point while we're waiting for the game to kick off is point talking about the league standings. Team Gusic are coming out of the Raven Conference, and it was actually sort of a surprise run that they had to take the second seed. I don't think a lot of people would have predicted such a result, given you had Cosmic Wolf, who really for the first 4 weeks, Chief, I think they ended week 4 at 3-1. They were on a really hot streak. They had a really easy schedule as well. They had teams that forfeit, I believe, a couple games, and they had a match against Coastal, who was kind of one of the more bottom sort of level teams that we had in this conference. Somehow, some way, eventually Team Gusic just flew in and managed to pretty much steamroll the last 4 weeks of competition that we had for the regular season, thus earning themselves that second position. Mystic, man, they had an easy season. Unfortunately, the Rogue group this season has had a little bit of less competition. I think people would say, as a general notice, that it was less competitive than the other conference in that group stage play. But even despite that, you still had 2 Relax Esports who really came out of nowhere. They were swinging hard. You had Oblivion, who early in the season, before they disbanded, actually looked like a really solid team. When they had Momo and Red X on that duo ship running entry, they look really solid, but unfortunately that broke down and the team is no longer really in existence.
So you're saying that the Raven Conference was the best conference because IEBs were there?
Yeah, there you go. You got it
Yep.
right on the money. Thank you, Chief.
It wasn't the fact that Surf, Mystic, Phantom, even JJ and Co. when they were still there, Coastal. It wasn't because of them. It was because I Eat Bees, the best roster have ever touched the sun and have ever touched this game. To be fair, though, if you don't know what we're referencing, I Eat Bees were another league, or I guess they were the managers, owners of Solar Flare Competitive League, another league, and they decided to enter. And, well, they're league owners for a reason, aren't they?
Yeah. No, I got the short stick with the fact that I had to cast that game. It was like they
My
played one
condolences.
match before they forfeit the league. But jumping forward here, we've actually got the game on the run, so we'll jump into Cafe Dostoevsky. We'll really get this one started. We're just not going to talk about the operator bans because really, I mean, unless Gusic do something weird, there really isn't going to be anything crazy. Maybe we're going to have hard breachers, but what are your expectations out of this game from Gusic, who look like a rising team, even though their failure to complete in the SCS close qualifiers might dissuade some people from being fans of them?
Actually, this Sophia ban was something that I was going to start to expect. Now you're like, wait, Sophia ban? Why on earth would everybody want to ban Sophia? Well, it's becoming a common ban because the one thing that we love to say, Reese, is we're currently in the middle of the team deathmatch meta, and who is the queen of that meta, at least on the attacking side? It's Sophia. She has 150 bullets in her magazine of her LMG. It just goes burr. You don't need me to explain why that's so terrifying and powerful. But also, she's a great operator since she can burn her own ADS as well as she has the ability to use that lifeline to remove deployable shields with the impact grenade element of that lifeline.
I feel like Zofia and her popularity is really, in the previous meta, it was entirely because of the gadget, and now, things have changed a little bit. Obviously, the M762, it needed a nerf. It was better than the R4C, had a higher, optic zoom, and that thing was terrifying. Angled grip, there's another point on it. But the M762, I don't think ever defined its own meta. It was just a solid gun on the offense. The LMG is a bit of a different concept when that notion comes forward, because that thing is just a real menacing tool. And it's got 150 bullets. Now that Finka is one of the best offensive operators that you can pick right now, immediately illustrated by Newers going for it in the first round, LMGs are crazy good. And another note here, this actually makes 2 days in a row that we've seen the Zofia ban, because as that earlier game I talked about over in First Blood there on Sunday night, that had Zofia bans on 2 or 3 of the maps as well, from my memory.
Is this a 4v5? Bax is not here. Uh-oh. The delay might still be continuing. He might be bugged. Yeah. That's unfortunate there, Reese. I will echo.
We had this before. It's just like a delay thing with the operator. He got his pick. He got in anyway, so don't worry about it. It just, I don't know. I guess you could clown on him. You could say maybe Amazon.com/SSD, but no, in reality, it's just the slow nature.
No, it's Wish.com/SSD.
I don't know if I would really trust.
Well, that's the joke, right? That's the joke, right? Because you're wishing for an SSD and you're wishing for a good SSD. Because if you were to shop there, man, you could either get like the world's best SSD for $1 or a literal brick.
Yeah, I don't think I do too much shopping over on Wish, so I'll have to take your word for it. But
I've never been on the website in my life. That's a good thing about being a boomer, man. Like, boomers were afraid of sketchy websites like that. And you know what I'm not afraid of, though, Reese? Is our lobby starting. I think we're finally getting there. I think we're about to enter in. I know it's Cafe. I know we're not looking forward necessarily to our least favorite map, but at least we're in. And look at our lovely operators. They're running around and actually starting their setup.
Yeah, we're getting things in motion here for the Gusic defense. They're going to bring double intel, Maestro and Valkyrie on this first look defensively. Mystic, they've got the Norm. They've got that Finka. Such a popular operator nowadays, as we already talked about her in the context of the deathmatch meta and having an LMG, reducing, just the overall threat the defenders can really pose against you. Having a health boost, I don't know if I necessarily really like that. The health boost, it's fine in a balancing sense, but it just feels like kind of an odd gadget that it just happens. Like, it doesn't take much skill, you just activate it. Very passive ability. Though the thing is, I will say, there's certainly a reason why Doc doesn't get picked as much, because it feels like there's such a gigantic chance that you'll die with having all of those adrenal surge, or not even the adrenal surge, I believe it's the... Is it some kind of needle or something?
No, you're talking about his gun. I don't know, it's a Healy gun thingy.
Stim pistol is what we call it kind of colloquially, but I don't know.
That's what we're calling it, Healy gun thing. That's what
healing gun, healing pistol, gadget, primary thing for the French operator.
So the one thing I want to say about Finka, though, is she does like a million other things too. Like, she corrects your vision when you're flashed, and like there's a million things that she does. She used to correct your recoil, and it's like the one thing I wish was like more documented. The one thing that we can document, though, is the death of Amp, who just falls a bit early there. That's the Valk, yeah. So my hypothesis around that death would be Reese, that he was trying to use those Valkyrie cameras in an aggressive manner, and while it doesn't work out for him, it puts Gusic in a bad scenario.
Yep, document it, get it down in the notebook. Amp, aggressive, round number 1 will suffer and leave Gusic in a little bit more of a less amicable situation. Mystic on the normal progression, Tones gets his drone blown up by his own heart breach utility. You do have to err on the side of caution. You never realize how big of an explosion those X-Kairos actually have. I've seen a time before where they've destroyed Selmas and exothermics. You just kind of have to be a little judicious. It seems like they don't do explosive damage to themselves, but they do to other teammates' gadget, right? Which is just such a weird relationship to see there. Doc has got another one. He's starting to pick up on the flank watch here. He removes Baxley Always a good one to get down and out there for Gusic, who now have 1:15 to stall with only 2 members to do it with. Unlimited now just himself. Mr. B goes down in the back of storage. Unlimited taking big league damage as he tries to fight from the pixel door, but he can't even best the angle from inside the freezer. That's a flawless round to kickstart the semifinals. And the hip fire.
And also the magazine being tossed out to Narnia, too. That was quite an entertaining round. I'm sure Mystic is laughing all the way through with that endeavor. I mean, they were just as creamy as peanut butter throughout that attack. It seemed like Gusic was almost non-existent in that lobby there. They were just, I don't know, they put up hardly resistant. We saw some reinforcements with some murder holes over at Wash. Even a deployable shield with ADS, that's basic though. Reset's what we expect to have in a defensive bar, and none of that mattered to the play style of Mystic, and especially with Gusic and Mr. B in the server. Like, I would expect them to be much more dynamic, playing together as a team, but those were 5 individual deaths for Gusic.
Yep. No tradability even seen. Gusic, they were not able to get any kills. I don't think they really got much in the way of damage either. They just kind of stood in their positions and toppled over like a set of bowling pins. And that's not the way you have to get things going on Cafe Dostoevsky, right? You need to stand tall and you need to stand up against the attackers, but not in such a way that it, leaves yourself immobile and pretty much a freebie target for Mystic to take down there. Gusic will not reattempt the bomb site, Chief. I think this is the perfect decision. Go down to kitchen, look at other sites, start the rotation early. Don't use the same bomb site over and over again and continue to lose it.
There's a lot of information operators on the board for Gusic right now, Reese. We currently see echo cameras being set up upstairs in bar when it's a kitchen defense. So instead of using the traditional method of those echo cams, you put them somewhat near sight so you can have those sonic blasts and night plant. We're seeing Gusic using this in almost an offensive manner, where they're going to try this as a relay of information upstairs, so if Mystic goes for a third-floor attack, they'll have full information on it. Unfortunately, though, that's actually not the case at all, as Mystic is trying to steamroll in through the white quarter, but Gusic is also prepared for that endeavor.
In the second round, as a much better get-go, eliminating Gunner, who had that mid-round pickup, though, to be honest, that bar defense didn't feel like it had a mid-round. It was sort of like, I don't know, an unfinished sentence or something like that. A sentence fragment. It just started, ended, and you weren't able to really get a solid grasp of the idea, and that's exactly what Gusic want right now. 3 bodies drop. Finka, Newer, is one of your big power players, and Doc bails on the opportunity, and because of that, dies to Valk, who comes down Brown. Spider with 1 against the Echo. In another world, in another round, we would say utility kill there. Good pickup to remove the Yokais, but it's not going to matter much unless Sweater can get it down to just 1 or 2 and enable the possibility for a plant. Still have the Valkyrie. It looks like one of the defenders knocked off balance by an air jab you could hear detonated in the background. And there's Baxley, who will just drag the cursor across for a quick Roni kill to put round 2 in the Gusic column.
Well, I described round number 1 as smooth as peanut butter, but I guess I have to kind of go with the opposite end now with that strong performance of Gusic, so we're going to have to call it as smooth as jelly, I guess. And we're going to make a sandwich with it all across those 2 rounds because they were very different. I mean, Gusic's round 1 defense was non-existent, and now in round 2, they completely do a 180. They take an aggressive stance as we hear that MP5 SD5 find that opening kill, aggressive spawn peek from there. Mystic tries to just push on through white, but since Gusic had all information operators, it's easy for them to grab real-time information on the attack of Mystic, and from there, it was just kind of these jack-in-a-box style of play for Gusic. One member would spring into action, take this gunfight, and then they would hide. The next one would pop out of cover all of a sudden, take the gunfight and hide, and Mystic had no idea where to go. Their brains were swimming all around them, and then they ended up getting lost in that attack. So now, Mystic, they have to remember that Gusic can be spontaneous and can be very dynamic and be willing to take these gunfights. They have to remember that as they go over to bar, a round where they steamrolled in.
Wonder if that was maybe just sort of a first round fluke for Gusic, who kind of lost their balance. Maybe Mystic just kind of pushed him back a little bit, and they couldn't quite make their wits about him. So we'll see on the reattempt. I mean, Mystic had a pretty solid structure, though, I think you can say for that. First round, though, it's hard to come into a Cafe attack without structure, though I'll say I do see it more often than I would really like. But in this context, between Mystic and Gusic, I think you should be spared the unsightly lack of structure offense on Cafe tonight. You're going to reinforce off the bathroom. What's that about?
I was just thinking that. I don't know if this is to tease Mystic that, hey, we're going to be playing in barback storage with this rotation. Maybe they're reacting to a potential play of Mystic. Honestly, I don't have a definitive answer for you, Reese. It might just be to deny the crossfire to White when Mystic takes control of Piano.
Yeah, that could be something. I wonder if maybe it's a thought from Gusic that, you know, last time this extension was really unprofitable. So they don't want to open up that rotate and have that be an area where if Baxley dies early, that could be another win the Mystic would add on top of that, right? You want to limit the opportunity for Mystic to get one area and then have that immediately snowball. Now that Baxley has that reinforcement up, the offense would still have to run to hard breaching or push down the Whitehall to do anything with a cleared bathroom position. Sweater will get his drone burned as, you know, Baxley hasn't really faced too much opposition so far. I think this deployable shield inside the bathroom has kind of maybe spooked Mystic just a little bit. Still dealing with a couple of the Valkyrie cameras on the fringe of the setup.
I think that's really what's slowing Mystic down. They realize that it's kind of this two-pronged system of defense for Gusic. They have deployable shields and information, and be able to deal with one, you kind of have to deal with the other, so you have to kind of figure out which is the greater of the evils right now, and I think getting Nitrocell from below is the greatest of those evils. And speak of the devil, it appears as Mystic erupts in round number 1, Tones finds himself an opening casualty once again, and that's your primary hard breach, and your only hard breach now removed. And what are you going to do, Mystic? You can no longer open up barback storage, which means if there's any players trying to rotate in that position, they'll be able to rotate more or less freely. Newer swings in through Heaven Balcony, and Gusic finds himself in a very comfortable round with a +2 man advantage.
Yeah, and locking out Newers from Heaven, I think, it goes a long way to this, but don't get too comfortable as Gunner and Doc quickly stay with 2 picks in the mid-site. Gunner getting the case down as well, spots Maestro, who comes through the rotate. Teddy somehow outlasting that one, leaves it up to Gunner, who's killed by Unlimited. Thought for a moment it was Teddy on the spray down, but no, it's the 416 that'll put it in for Gusic to get round 2. And on the reattempt, though it does get a little hazy towards a potential Mystic 3 versus 3 execute, I think the simple fact that you've got a body down there is probably what guarantees the round. Somebody's got to be planting, somebody's got to be, you know, using the keyboard, typing away on the diffuser, and that means one less gun to hold off the defense's rotation.
I mean, we saw Gusic almost telegraph what they were going to be doing from round 2 into round 3, right? If you see all that utility, the information utility in round 2 with the echoes and the Valkyrie cameras in play, we talk about what's the best way of holding Piano. Everybody says, well, you bring out deployable shields, ADS says, boom, you're good to go. And people kind of forget about the Nitrocell denial from underneath. And when you have this suite of information operators in play, if you're a defender, you absolutely go for the Nitrocell denial because you can do that from safety, right? Reese, when we saw Mystic push in through Piano, those Nitrocellers on that second floor, they're completely unchallenged. They're just allowed to whip that utility up for free. So Mystic moving forward, they have to remember that Gusic likes to have lots of information utility.
Yeah, and you ideally would like to limit that in as many ways as possible. The IQ, I think, is an early idea towards that. Having that for the offense really clamps down on the defense's ability, but right, as a defender, you still need to keep up on the drone hunting. I think that's always something good. It's a strong fundamental to have, and it's made much easier now. You've got that little counter on the side of your screen that tells you if you're shooting the drones, no more, 10, 9, 8, counting down the drones as you remove them. You just get a little in-game HUD. I know some people complain about it. Some people say it's a mechanic that kind of removes such a time-tested little nitpick of Siege that not many other games have, right? Like, I've never done that before in another game. Have to learn how to count down and work with my teammates to count to to an integer. But ultimately, you got to evolve with it. You got to adapt with it. And it just makes things really easier for the attack and casuals as well.
Reese, since we have another rehost, I have a present for you. I'm going to dive off camera, and I'm going to bring something to make this rehost okay.
All right, let's see it. I think I know what it is. It is Christmas. It is giving season. We're going to see what Chief gets.
I
Any
lied. There was
folks?
a puppy crying at my door, and the puppy is now gone, and she's now
Aw.
downstairs. So apparently, she wanted my attention, and then she didn't want my attention anymore. So I lied to you. Rehost number 3 doesn't get the puppy, and sad face.
Yeah, the girls always want you to chase them, but then when you do, they give up on you. Nah, just kidding. We got the Oryx coming in for Mr. B there. Here in round number 4, he's going to bring out the... Is Oryx from Morocco or Western Sahara? I
I
always
honestly do
forget
not
on that
remember.
one. I'm going to look it up right now because I want to fact check myself because I feel like he is from the Western Sahara. What is this country flag? He's from Jordan. I had no idea. That's my brother's name. Jordan. Also a country.
It is a country. You know what else is also taking place? Cafe in the background, upstairs, downstairs. It's all stairs since we're on the middle floor right now. Reese, this is reading room. And there are elements of all bomb sites, right? You can go with the nitrocell denial strategy that you just brought out, right? You can deny all of dining room through the nitrocell. You can deny both what I refer to as gears, which is the room where we just saw over to Teddy's left. You can also deny train through nitrocell denial. And then you also can play it like bar with deployable shields upstairs. You hold cocktail. You can bring out castle barricades. You can really bring out a lot of operators. And that's what I really enjoy about this reading room setups is you can do almost anything. It's just up to your creativity.
I like how Unlimited is really setting the boundaries here. It's making sure no rushing. Nope. On the tertiary objective, you can't come in from that snow door. And a thought that I always had, you talk about gears, otherwise the default called mining. What part of a mining operation is this machine really part of?
Honestly, it looks like what you put into like the river and it grabs like gold and stuff there. But it also can grab players like Tones. That's really your goal, and that's how you cash out of this round as
Is
Tones.
that 3 for 3 now?
Tones, yes, Tones has been getting smoked. Tones has been all over the place, and you're running one hard breacher, and you know what? Since we've now kind of crowned ourselves give IQ pocket thermite charges, imagine if you had pocket thermite charges, you could still be able to recover from this round. I think she'd probably be too powerful with that, but it's still cool to think about.
Yeah, that would be interesting. That'll be something for the balancing TTS. As you might have heard, there is a new update coming to it just on Wednesday, on the 8th. Sweater has one back after the earlier death of your hard breacher. It's always good to sort of take one off. It's Teddy. You lose the castle, you lose that long-range potential. Do you happen to know where Teddy was? Because I'm not sure exactly where his body dropped, but we know for certain where the alibi is laying. That's inside cocktail.
No information on the death of Teddy, but since you had players upstairs, it's probably good to kind of point them in that direction. Mr. B now finds a kill, and it seems like we are seeing all these deaths in the lobby are just untraded casualties between both teams. What an aggressive stance for Mr. B there, Reese. You wouldn't expect him to run out of train and then retake that. That's almost a hazardous play, but he gets away with it because Mystic was too slow to fill in that space, so then he overextends with that gunfight. Again, it seems like we're seeing players just want to make these just final stand gunfights when it's a 2v2.
Right, and I don't necessarily hate the play for Mr. B. I think that was a nice one there. But Mystic 2 versus 2 coming into the execute against Unlimited and Amp. We haven't really seen a round end like this so far. We had that little 3v3 last round. Here's Amp. He went for the Thunder Punch out of the door. As he comes back in on the side, he gets Gunner, leaving it to Newers, who has no grenades. He won't even make it that far to the Surya Gate as he dies to Unlimited first. That's Team Gusic closing it out in the 2 versus 2 as they take an early staunch lead here on Cafe Dostoyevsky.
Mystic is just struggling to put together a cohesive attack, Reese, and it's really stemming from Tones being the opening death. And in round number 4, the reading room attack, I mean, you can't really remove the defenders comfortably upstairs without ranged hard breach. I guess you can start to close the wall and open up pallets, but since you only had one hard breach, it really doesn't matter if it's ranged or not. And then from there, Mystic is kind of forced to take these gunfights. The only reason they really bring it to a 2v2 is because Gusic was also kind of playing in that really aggressive TDM style meta where they were not playing for trades. And I think if Mystic kind of realizes that, And if they lose one of their attackers early, if they play the trade game, they might be able to overcome some of those initial deaths.
And it's a strange thing to attribute to them, because I feel like this is not usually a problem that we encounter with Team Mystic, and it does draw me back to the cast we had yesterday that I've already talked about twice in First Blood. Mystic were a little slow going. They had some rounds where it looked like they were kind of out of their form. I don't know if that's maybe something to do with Gunnar coming into the team. Perhaps he's affected the starting speed. I'm not really sure how I would go about describing it, but it's been a little bit unusual so far for Mystic, who maybe have lost some of that pug energy. If JJ were to have come on this roster in place of Gunnar, I definitely would have said that. I would have said, you know, you're not as explosive. You don't just have newers walk in and make a play every round. You don't allow Sweater to really do as much as he would want to, even though I think maybe Sweater in a battle of egos could probably trump Gunnar and still continue to play as he would like to. But ultimately, as we step into round number 5, that utility in the intel game, more importantly on Gusic, continues to be quite prevalent, having both Pulse and the Echo.
You see control of Bakery, and you can see how wary Mystic is around Bakery. They have the foot level holes open up, which means Gusic can kind of challenge any of the members of Mystic when they walk in through Bakery. And also look at the role assignment change for Tones, or at least the operator assignment. He was running Hibana, and now he's running Maverick. It's actually a perfect change for the Mystic offense, because it now allows you to slice and dice your way through the Bakery wall. With Cade in play, that can sometimes be a bit cumbersome to use or to deal with. And plus, if you do want to remove the Cade and you don't have a Twitch on the board, you have to start to sacrifice those nades. And one of my favorite things about this bomb site is, Reese, is when teams just start to whip all of their nade arsenal down range, the defender ADSs get overwhelmed, and the defenders kind of start to play hot potato with the nades.
Yeah, eventually that coverage does kind of run a bit dry, and if overwhelmed properly, and if timed well, more importantly, you can really use that to gain a pretty sizable bit of leverage. There's Teddy, steps forward, has the opener against Doc. Gusic have done really well to kind of skirmish against Mystic so far from what I've noticed this game. And Mr. B, it's rare to have a shotgun close in this position, and I'm really keen to see what he might be able to do. Continues to pull out the cardiac sensor, relays the information, but taking a massive portion of damage as he's sort of pushed and pulled between prep and the innards of kitchen cooking. Eventually, Tones will get rid of him, put Mystic back in the 3 versus 3. Amp trying to tap away at a player over by kitchen prep, but unsuccessful in doing so, possibly giving over an important piece of map control. In fact, it is! There's Sweater on the angle. He gets 1, not a second. In the meanwhile, Gunnar had eliminated Unlimited. Amp now left in the 1 versus 2. He's got Tones sprinting straight toward him. Gunnar's there as well. Easy 2 versus 1. Mystic 2 to 3.
Did you see how the opening death and the opening damage was dealt, Reese? That was something I've never quite seen. Did you hear all of Gusic, at least 3 or 4 guns, shot into the soft wall after the reinforcement was popped by Tones? And did you see what it did to the Mystic offense? Sledge was unable to get close to the wall because it was opened up. That was incredible. Most defenders think, well, why would I want to shoot this wall open? That just means the attackers have this line of sight. But in doing so, they actually denied Sledge the ability to open it up. Now, eventually, Mystic would be able to overcome the opening death, and the opening damage caused by that spray through the wall, but that was some different thinking there from Gusic, and it almost worked for them. And that's that cool ingenuity that we like to talk about, where teams are kind of experimenting with things on the fly, and something that I've never actually seen before.
So Mystic have an opportunity to tie the half. I think they've gotten a little bit of their mojo back with that win down on the first floor. This site, we've seen them do it. Last time they went to it was in, gosh, that was like round number 4, I think.
Last time we saw Bar was back in round 3.
Round 3, right. So they went down to the kitchen in that space between the first Bar defense and the second. And when they came back up to the top floor, it really looked like Mystic kind of, I don't know, they lost a bit of their stride, right? Mystic, their only other round, aside from the one we just saw, their only other victory was just on the top floor, and Gusic kind of fell over. That was not the case in round number 3, and I'm wondering which of the 2 bars that we've had so far will come to play in round 6.
I think the way Mystic approaches this, at least what they should do, is you just clear out that second floor just to make sure there's no Valkyrie cameras. There's a Valkyrie camera outside. The patch must have not gone live because there's Valkyrie cameras constantly living outside. Moving on from that point, though, I would still push downstairs, at least the second floor, or put a flank drone there at minimum, right? There's a lot of places over in Gears that you can have a drone safely just to monitor information. You don't necessarily need to have something in train, and, well, we see how the attackers use nades over in the washroom, but there's a new one for you, Reese. The defenders have their own Pokeball nades that they can throw back into your face.
Right. Newer is down and out. He's looking for the angle. And he's got a comment for that opening casualty as well. Gusic, smiley face. That's who you're playing against. Grenade comes in. Ooh, off target and Baxley with a nice one. One bullet to the dome of Sweater. Doesn't matter that he missed every single other bullet on the spray down. He had the one that got the kill, and it takes out Sweater. Seeing Gusic in round 3 form, it seems like, as we come underway, 90 seconds or thereabouts to go.
Pro tip for you, Reese. When you have multiple teammates going in through the same door to say, hey, I want to go in first, and then you kind of just go by alphabetical order or whatnot. All jokes aside, remember what we were talking about all those rounds ago, or what feels like rounds ago, but it was just only like 30 seconds ago, push downstairs to deal with these roamers? Well, I guess it's taking place, but you got 70 seconds left on the clock, and this is going to be a difficult endeavor. Not only is it a 5v2, but there's still utility in play, smoke grenades now going out, and the White Stairs push of Mystic. It seems to be well read into, especially now with the 416 lurking on the other side.
Jones has really got to worry about it. He's got the hatch open now. He still needs to reload the rifle. That's what he will do. Oh, but he didn't realize that Baxley, who now mounts up to a quad kill, had it prepped up on him. And that'll be a Gusic flawless round. And a really puzzling Mystic attack. To be honest, I'm not sure what's gotten into them this game. But perhaps it's Gusic power as they go 4-2.
Bad news, Brian, about to enter into the mic again. Reese, you asked, what are we going to see? You asked, are we going to see round number 1 bar? Are we going to see round number 3 bar? We actually saw neither one of them. Now, it was the same outcome as round number 3, where Gusic wins by almost a landslide. The thing was, and the difference was, we didn't see the Nitrocell denial. We just saw the almost bravado of Mystic in that round, where they simply just stood their ground and took gunfights, and Mystic looked terrified, right? We see the opening death of the impact grenade. We see the beautiful MP5K jack-in-a-box swing. I mean, when Mystic suffer those 2 opening deaths, they're just not going to recover from that. Plus, the Baxley 4K was beautiful.
Yeah, I think Gusic are known for their bravado, whether it's in the server, in the chat, or on the timeline. They kind of do it all 3 different ways, and we have seen at least the first, not really the middle option there. They've been pretty quiet so far in chat, focusing on dialing into their game, and maybe I was just a little hasty to predict that Mystic would take this 2-0, because if you start off that slow on the Cafe offense and you fail to close out some very winnable rounds, there starts to become a couple more murmurs that maybe this game isn't going to be as one-sided as I had initially predicted. Maybe Gusic are looking to avenge their loss in SCS closed quals against a team, Mystic, who actually did make it into SCS by taking a win here and moving on to face Surf Esports in the grand final.
I wonder if Mystic is starting to have some, interpersonal problems when it comes to the team, because when they start to play these aggressive teams like Surf yesterday and now Gusic, they don't seem to be able to put together the attacks, and maybe Mystic has kind of built themselves a foundation of, well, we're the mechanical team. We're the team that shoots back. And then once you have these players spawn peeking, you challenge you behind deployable shields. I'm going to be frank, playing around that is very difficult. And even if you call Alton players equal in gun skill, sometimes when you face that initial stand-up gunfight, it can kind of chalk your mental just a smidge.
Right. I have a thought that crept into my mind about Team Mystic, because in Solar Flare Season 3, Mystic had some very serious interpersonal issues, and it cost them to forfeit in the playoffs.
Was this the Asian roster? Or is it the Maniac roster?
This is the Maniac roster, 3/5 of which who were on the team, and I think I maybe would agree with that. Obviously, we don't want to speculate. We have no voice comms to see, what's going on for Mystic, but that is something that comes to my mind immediately. Yeah, there is a possible chance that maybe some attitude issues could be in play.
Well, I just came off a scrim for GCU on this map, and it almost looks like the exact same thing. GCU is a collegiate roster that plays very aggro, but if you get aggro against them, they sometimes just like they melt. Like, it's surprised Pikachu, like, I play aggressive, and then when they play aggressive, it's just like, how dare you? It's like if you play Clash in ranked, well, you know that there's gonna be a clash. You go over to your attack, or if you play Blackbeard on attack, you know the other team's gonna bring out Blackbeard. It's almost like this weird version of, like, mutually assured destruction.
Right. That was always a concept that we had a couple months back. I actually saw a tweet about it yesterday, referencing the fact that you didn't want to be the first one to, like, pick Blackbeard or Ying, right? Because that was kind of like the approval, the go-ahead. If you pick the troll operator, not even troll, if you pick the toxic operator, it kind of gives the other team license to then go ahead and pick it and be toxic against you as well. So possibly some similarities drawn there. On the top floor, Mystic's first defense, I think a pretty important one to setting the tone of this game.
Almost an identical strategy that Gusic was bringing out is now being replicated by Team Mystic, as we see, again, the default scenario that every team on Cafe has played in a live match, have scrimmed, a dry run. They're going to see them. And now you can see the coordination. How good is Team Mystic at breaking this down? They seem quite well versed. You hear those flashbangs detonate in the background, and even better, you find the opening death of Sweater. And the storyline continues, Reese, as Mystic is getting just ripped apart on the opening demise. And did you see that punch hole angle that Vaxley died to? That's incredible. It's something I've never quite seen before.
I suppose in the playoffs, it's always time for a couple of the new things, a couple of the little niche plays you've deduced through play in ranked. Doc on a sliver of health, but still alive, still in the fight. That's what's most important here. Gunner maintains the angle. This is a really tight one. Here's Newers with the C4 as he calls it in. No damage apparent on the Gusic side. But now they should realize that, maybe if there's a C4, that also means a Mystic have a defender below, and possibly they could execute here, try to take the immediate 5 versus 3. There's Newers from the stairs. Gunner with 1, despite being on low HP, but Mr. B and Amp have 2 quick ones in against Tones and Gunner, respectively, before Doc trades it back against the Sledge. As the 2 defenders try to corral the final defensive members, Doc misses a crucial fight, and he kind of has to inch his way back into cover.
Plenty of information on the side of Mystic to be able to be successful in this round. The thing is, they don't really have the HP advantage, and plus once you start to incorporate the fact that Gusic can start to heal themselves, that's perfect for them, and they should be able to recover from this, but they aren't able to. Since time's on their side, they have no information. They're forced to just face check these corners, Reese. That's such a difficult thing to do, and Mystic is happy to oblige in that as they just sit tight around these corners. Well played for Mystic.
Good way to close out a crucial round to the storyline here on Cafe and get it going, despite Gusic, who were really fiery there. We'll go down to Kitchen now and see what this defense materializes. Maybe if it's another one for Mystic, you start to say first half could be attributed to early game woes. Maybe it's not such a big deal that Gusic were able to close out 4-2 on defense. And as much as you sometimes go into bad news, Brian, I've got annoying statistic sticula, as possibly you could say that the first half was down to round economics.
I'm usually the one that talks about annoying statistics, so I guess I have to also call myself annoying statistics chief, or Schubert. We're going to go with that, or Shoeberry. Shoeberry. Now, one thing I want us to watch out for are those nitro cells and anybody having information based on those nitro cells. Right, for Mystic, we just saw a nitro cell be one of the primary kills factors on Far. Look who's departed the Mystic lineup. We don't see Echo, which was brought out by Gusic, not Mystic, and we also saw the Valkyrie in round 7 for Mystic, not available. But there are ways to maybe leverage some information operators with those Nitro Cells. I mean, you do have the holograms of Alibi in play, and technically you could listen to the Banshee, the Melusi Wub Wub, the Disco DJ devices of Melusi, and when you hear one of those detonates, you have a relatively good proximity of where the attackers are, and you could eat those Nitro Cells downrange.
It's a good point. The Banshees, it's nice that they elicit such an audio cue. It's, you know, it's kind of like a prox. You almost feel like if you're going to bring a prox on a defense, right, it's outright better. It looks like Gusic perhaps were thinking about some kind of snow door rush, and that could still very well be on the menu here. As two of them step to the interior of the objective, Sweater already down, but here's 3 kills in succession from Team Mystic. This offense is not quite over yet, though, with Newers down. Mr. B getting the plant. The final defender, I believe, over now by Pillar. Gunner having a pretty substantial game for himself so far in the fight against Baxley. Neither of these two will prevail, and Baxley will send out a Gone 6. I'm not sure what that accomplished on the first pickup. The Iana unable to collect the diffuser. He will toss out a drone to monitor the red hallway as Gunner, and as he hears the audio cue, he might get sort of spooked and think that perhaps Baxley has rotated over towards the dining room area. Still setting up his drones. This is a really ballsy move for Baxley to be on the cams right now, adjusting and sourcing the intel. Actually, Gunner's going to toss out a little impact grenade just as a moment of spite there. And Baxley really realizes that he does not have many options. I think Gunner must have heard the pin get pulled on that grenade as it goes through. The Melusi's backup will be that telltale sign. The second grenade goes through and it stalls Gunner out for a moment, but I don't know if it's going to be enough time. The Iana comes off the plant and gets away with it. What a way for Gusic to close out a very odd tempo attack on the middle floor.
The 1v1 takes place with less than 60 seconds being burned, and if Gusic threw that round, I would have been kind of frustrated with that, Reese. They had the opening kill and an opening DBNO onto Mystic, so going into the rush through Snow Hell door, that was a 5v3. Great reaction for Mystic, be able to deny that pressure, and you could literally see the entire roster of Mystic, the 3 players that were still alive, they kind of just acted like a tidal wave, crashing back onto that door. You heard all the gun barrels chiming in chat, and great read from them. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. I even like the flank coming in from Hell Door on the side of Mystic, be able to start to create that 180 crossfire, because a lot of attackers in that scenario, especially after suffering multiple deaths through that rush, they start to get tunnel vision. They start to focus up on the biggest threat, and the biggest threat, the scariest monster in the room, is the monster that's shooting back, and sometimes the flank gets overlooked. Well, that took place for Gusic, but a beautiful 1v1 to decide it.
That is a great way to get some momentum back, to put the lead solidly at that 2-round spot where it had been at the end of the first half, and to really show that, you know, Mystic can't exactly underestimate them here. And there is one point that I wanted to bring up. I believe it was round 5. Unlimited had a word in chat. He said no rushing. I suppose he's kind of violated that principle with the round number 8 attack.
No, it's just to get in your opponent's head. We talked about, you know, the Doc, or not Doc, the Blackbeard mutually assured destruction. The same thing, right? If you rush, then I'll rush, and it just kind of goes downhill. Now, Gusic is the only team that could assumably rush here on Cafe until we enter into map 2, until we get into overtime. And again, Mystic has been a roster very familiar with overtime. We have to go back to the First Blood tournament yesterday, where they had 2 maps go to round 15 overtime. Mystic would end up winning one of those 2 maps in that endeavor. Now, Mystic, downstairs in the kitchen, is there a roam, Reese? I think just slight roam, just a few operators off site.
Just a little kind of roam thing going on here, but actually it's a bit more invested than my initial assumption. Seeing Doc on mid-white, one in the dark corner, that's Gunner, and Newers playing Train as well. While it's not, you know, this typical extended roam you see in a lot of competition, it's still a roam. It's still defenders who are away from the objective and who are causing the attackers to take this a bit more slowly, to waste more time. You come away with some drones as well. That's always a positive thing for the defense. You want to get as many of them as possible, and they've already got drone count down to 6. Actually, reaches the bottom of the stairs, spots Newers, but I think if he had let the Wamai step forward, he might have easier had that gunfight. Instead, no. The opportunity slips. Newers evades down the hatch, and that should be the last sighting of the roam, except for Gunner, who I believe is still near pillar.
The thing we should have watched in that attack was what Sledge was doing. When you have roamers on that second floor, it is like you sledge Piano to make sure the roamers can't fall back safely. Gunner, as you mentioned, never fell back, so he's able to capitalize on the misplay of Gusic. But going back to the Sledge, why wasn't Sledge swinging that sledgehammer and Piano to make sure that the roamers of Mystic fell off earlier? It seems like a missed opportunity there with that one.
Maybe not. You know, the multi-kill that Gunner was hoping for with that little rat play in the dark corner, but in the grand scheme of things, the Legion's utility, most of which was already used against the Iana, whose intel capabilities are always in such a huge demand. Especially, never more so, in the 4-drone left scenario. As the C4 comes up, it takes off Amp, who will not be able to use the sledgehammer, as we just got done talking about, but more in that direct pressure to the site context. Gusic, and they get it done in the 3 versus 4. 20 seconds to make it happen, and they are aware there's a player down by Wedding. What you really need right now is a grenade on that position, but it never comes. Instead, here's Sweater in the freezer for 2. Unlimited coming through the rotate. Doesn't have the thought to check his corner down the red hall, and Mystic will again draw the lead to a single round.
That round was lost by Gusic on that roam clear there, Reese. Not because of Gunner's great positioning with the Legion, waiting for the goo mines to detonate before he goes for his swing, because he gets traded in that process, but it was, why didn't Gusic punish those roamers? Why didn't Gusic try to deny roamers a flexibility of moving between gears, dining, and train? That's a thing. When we talk about Kitchen, we always talk about, well, you do vertical, right? You want to maneuver those defenders on the bomb site so they don't have a leg to stand on, so they can't comfortably defend that site. The thing was, Mystic was defending Kitchen through the second floor through a roam. And that's really where you as an IGL take the lessons learned from your traditional Kitchen defense and apply it upstairs to Piano, so you remove the defenders that way. And it's the same concept if you were swinging the sledgehammer on the second floor. You're just doing it on the third floor to make sure those defenders can't exist comfortably, because they fell through that meat locker hatch way too easily, and Gusic just stalled too much time, and 4 drones going to that execute was just not enough.
So on the top floor, we'll get a look at the Mystic approach here, and we've had the rotation, MOA 2, defense victories for Mystic. It was just that rush that they failed on. That was really the only little hawk mark on their record there. But, you know, you think about the rotation in the first half, we've got 3 rounds left. Mystic need all 3 to take the victory in regulation. Otherwise, it's overtime. And what Gusic really needs to do is just win the tertiary objective. Again, they've already shown that they're capable of it. That last Kitchen attack, it doesn't give me as much confidence as I think I would really want for them. And I don't imagine a win in regulation is really a realistic situation for the Gusic side here. But I'm never going to count them out for it, because you just know that they have this ability to turn it on. There's a reason why they perform so well in the SCS qualifiers in the best of 1s. The best of 3 was a different situation, and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Of course, this is a best of 3 as well, but just in the context of the first map. So
seems like Gusic wants to have the success from their rush, and there's Amaru already in through Heaven, the DB on a 1, but you can't get out of your sprint key. Brilliant from Baxility to be able to win that. He shouldn't have been able to do so. The Nitrocells rain. Newers and Tones find their kills, and then Limit now, the last one, a left for Gusic. They tried to replicate that success, but unfortunately just a little bit too much YOLO sin, and the members of Gusic just fall one by one. Sure, you can heal yourself with those nanobots, but you can't heal your teammates.
No, there's no getting back. The 4 casualties Gusic have suffered here in this scenario as Unlimited stares down against the last 2. You really hope that you can get rid of Gunner. I think he's got the more dangerous thing, the long-range potential. But Unlimited has plenty of ammo. It's really a game of who hits their shots. Gunner will smell the rotation coming down from wide. He's going to adjust to play the shield. Begins to cook the grenade. It's a little bit of a bait and switch move. He doesn't want to commit to the utility when he realizes that there are 2 defenders and he only has 2 grenades. Gunner being such an elusive quantity here, still hovering on the shield. The rotation comes again from Unlimited. 50 seconds, not the most time to think about his options to really give it a good solid consideration here. Making sure the default cam is not going to suss this one out as he starts to move through. I think he's invaded the sight line from Gunner. And now into the back of Bar Stock. He can't win it against Smoke. He thinks there's someone in the bathroom. No! The other defender, already having snuck up through outer bar, will complete it to make sure Mystic shut down the rush the second time it comes.
Bad news, Brian. Back to tell you. You know why he thought that he was getting shot from bar? Or from the washroom?
No, I didn't know.
He was getting hit. He was walking behind him into the Cade Claw of the reinforcement. Ooh. And he was getting that white little symbol like, uh-oh, somebody's behind you. And he's like, well, it can't be behind me. There's a reinforced wall.
It's gotta be somewhere.
Happens. I mean, that's the thing, right? You're in this 1v2, the pressure is on, and all of a sudden you're taking damage. You know one's in front of you, and you don't know where the other one is. You're taking damage from who knows what. And you have to say, well, what's more likely, complex. Being shot or something along those lines? It doesn't matter, because the 1v2 doesn't matter. It's really that, let's send it, let's YOLO it. We won Reading Room off of YOLO, so why not try to replicate the success? The difference between that was Hell Door is this avenue into the bomb site, and if you look at Reading Room, how do you really defend it? You can't defend it through that rotation that just opened up that comfortably, because that wall is going to be entirely soft. You can kind of swing around from the west section of Reading Room, but that's also kind of difficult to do because the attackers can continue down. Really, your option is through pillars, and the attackers could lock that down with a crossfire. But when you're rushing through bar, you're going to fly in with an Amaru through heaven. Well, that doesn't work half the time. And drop Skylight without Yin Candelas or smoke grenades. I mean, it was just Gusic kind of grabbing at straws. I think they're starting to feel a little bit desperate, Reese, now that they're all tied up.
Yeah, that's got to be a little bit of a kind of a nagging feeling for them. Not the place you really want to be in. But it's a tie game. It's not, a huge advantage. It's not a huge momentum streak you have to fight against here. And part of me wonders if the potential for Gusic to rush might still be here. And that they might try it as some kind of sneak. Maybe it would be in overtime, I think would be the most likely. But at the same time, it's much more dangerous to go for a rush in OT because you only get, 1 round or 2 of each side. I haven't looked at the numbers here or the record to see which it is. If Gusic have 2 attacks or only just the 1. But Gusic just do things at will. A very spontaneous team. It makes them good at defeating those very rigid, regimented teams. But Mystic really dealt them back with it. And of course, Gunner has to make sure they know that he expected the rush and he got it shut down. One thing I'd just like to call back before we step into round number 11 was that was a really nice C4 to shut down the Amaru.
Unlimited is slow to take this map control, and the same thing for the roster members of Gusic. They can't really put their drones past into these door frames right now, Reese, because there are mute jammers there, and you need to start to sledgehammer into washroom just so those drones can start to bypass all the mute jammers. And look at how slow Gusic is. One piece of utility has started to stall the entire attack. At least the deployable shield over in C2, C3 has been dealt with. The nades still being pinned, but Sweater is over in heaven. How was that not dealt with? That's a dangerous position to play, and it was never checked by the offense. Tones his nitro cell from below. If he pulls it, he gets 2 free kills.
Too late, though. Unfortunately misses the window to get the double kill unless it gets back open. Never count Tones out here. C4 still in hand. It goes up. It detonates. It goes boom against Mr. B. But that's just the 1. Not quite the 2. Not quite the larger bounty. But, do Mystic really need a 4 versus 2 to win this round? I think they'll do just fine in the 1-man up scenario. But that's unless Gusic can really do something good here on the vertical. Sledge still continuing to create the opening as Teddy watches such a stalwart sentinel against the walk-up from Brown. Gunner doesn't try it smartly. Amp continues to make the opening. He's a little cautious about the potential for a nitro below, but what we know, the C4s have already run out. Oh no, Unlimited gets himself back up in the fight. with the adrenal surge, he'll live to fight another day as Amp starts to step in towards reading. That's a nice prone angle in the middle of the hallway. It's actually a punch over towards dining. Plant is going to have to come down. Defensive retook the vertical. They're about to make sure this one isn't going anywhere. Unlimited, if he can win this other fight, he won't. Teddy comes off the plant. If he can escape the vertical, this is certainly a possible situation. Newers and Tones are going to have to link up and figure out what they want to do. With the last 30-odd seconds, they're going to slowly try to tighten in here on this last attacker position. And as the unfortunate Nomad is looking the wrong way, Tones will creep in. There was really nothing you can do there. You can't win 2 gunfights simultaneously against defenders who are 180 degrees opposite from one another.
I just wish Mystic did that when they were technically at that 4v1 when the plant was going down. They just pushed, not synchronized. And if they push together with all 4 of those defenders simultaneously, the cover doesn't work because it gets smoked. It became way too close in that 1v2. And I just want to remind everybody who's currently in Twitch chat, if you die to a defender in a really dumb place and you want to say these words, why are you there? That means you, as an attacker, yes, you listening, made the mistake. That means you didn't drone it. Like, this is now twice, and why I have to bring it up. We see Gunner's rat spot over by tables, and then we see the rat spot over in heaven. Those positions are dumb. If you drone the defender out, they die instantly because they can't return to safety. They are on an island by themselves. The only thing they have is a volleyball to say hi to. The thing is, the attackers give them those picks for free because they just didn't check those corners. It's really small mistakes like that. Again, if you ever say the words, why are you there? That means you didn't drone.
It's such a futile thing to say. It doesn't help you. It doesn't get you anywhere. All it does is just anger your teammates and make you look stupid. So,
I thought I was the bad cop. I'm always... But you're right.
Listen, I'm not saying it's about either team. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying in general. Please drone. The devs gave you 10 drones. Iana also exists. Lion exists. Use the utility. We've saw Mr. B on Lion. We have seen Iana in just about every one of these rounds. I mean, they help you. They're tools. Use those tools. What is this saying? The closest tool to you is the best tool to use, or something along those lines?
Something like that. I don't know. I don't exactly remember it word for word, but we're down to the bottom floor. Gusic, can they make it to overtime? They lost the tertiary objective. So now they have to go to somewhere that's maybe a little bit better looking for the Mystic defense play. Otherwise, map number 1 is going to wrap up, and we'll be headed to the break in anticipation of, I believe, is Clubhouse. Would be next there on the schedule. Control of Bakery already in hand by Team Gusic.
Remember when Gusic was on defense, we talked about that really cool round from them where they all just Swiss cheese the wall when it was Maverick tricked open? Well, now, Mystic, just remember what that felt like and use that against Gusic. Because they have the Maverick in play, they have the Sledge in play, so they're doing the exact same strategy. It's actually very interesting that they're still going for the trick because the Cade was dealt with quickly, but that's just because Gusic has elected to bring only one hard breacher. No pocket hard breachers currently in play.
Gunner with a little nod against the Nomad there. Teddy searching for the goo mine. He does get it, but what's more important is that Sweater creeps up against the breach and guns down Mr. B, removing the hard breach, and a point that you made just a couple moments prior now comes to the forefront. No other form of hard breaching available for Gusic. They're going to have to go with what they had, which looks like an uncompleted Maverick trick. Mr. B will be kicking himself for that, which is potentially game-losing now for Gusic. Toxic Babe fills the air, blocks the doorway, adds more stall. None of these good for Team Gusic at the moment. You've got Newers on the vertical. He's been unpressured. The Nomad is about to walk right into the angle after the utility burn is complete. A grenade comes in. Newers is ready for it. He gets one shot on target. Daddy eluding him there. But it shouldn't matter big picture because there are 35 seconds to play for. And Gusic have absolutely nothing going their way. Doc will gun down one. The default camera now giving over the intel. As Doc does skate back to the site, Gusic really have to get on the run here, and Teddy will do that as Baxley makes it for one, but Doc trades it back. Your Twitch is gone. It's 2 versus 3. There's 15 seconds. You gotta hit the site. And Unlimited will make it one if he gets the second. This is doable, but he won't. He doesn't get it in time. And Mystic will seal the deal as they walk away. Cafe Dostoevsky goes 7-5 as they open up the semifinals.
Extremely aggressive for Mystic in every single one of their defenses, and the only time we really saw Gusic be successful in the defense was that round 8, just Hail Mary rush, and even that became a close endeavor. Came down to an eventual 1v1, and what we're starting to see, Reese, are 2 very equal teams here on Cafe, and we saw Mystic play yesterday. They fell short on Clubhouse. And if Gusic tuned into that stream once, they might have real-time information to be able to VOD and counter-strat the last showing of Mystic on Clubhouse.
Yeah, but do they really want to? Is EJ gone that deep in the VOD? I don't have the answer to that question. Maybe I'll shoot him a DM and try to figure it out in between the break, but that's where we're headed. We've got 5 minutes and intermission, and we'll be on to Clubhouse. We're on for Clubhouse. We're on for Map 2 here in the UPL Fall Split Semifinal game. My initial predictions, 2 quick maps, 2 quick finishes for Team Mystic. Cafe Dostoevsky, I think, was a little lengthier than the expectation, but Gusic failed to capitalize on some solid first half momentum. Reese Hambrick alongside Brian Schubert here as we dive into the German map.
Fun fact for you. Going back to regular season, both teams had more or less the same round differential. It was a round differential of 21 for Team Gusic and a round differential of 23 for Team Mystic. But that means since the record of Team Gusic was 5-2 and Mystic was 6-1, that there were some very close games when it came to losses and potentially overtime losses.
There's the Zofia we were all expecting after seeing her vetoed in map number 1. The defender who joins her. What did Gusic remove on Clubhouse? Because I feel like it wasn't an Intel-related thing? Because I know we had Valkyrie up.
So it was Gusic's bans were Zofia, Clash, and the Thatcher Mira for
Clash. I must have missed the Clash, because I would have talked about that. I don't know what I was looking at. Must have been staring off at Cloud9. It won't be Clash this time. Clash really not as popular on a Clubhouse as compared to Cafe. It'll be Valkyrie and probably Mira or Cade. I think with Maverick up, you can afford to let the Cade through, and that's the situation we will see. Promulgate is there's the Mira to cap off the veto system, and we'll get into the first round. It's Mystic who begin on the defense, Gusic attack. That, of course, because this is the Gusic map selection. I hypothesized they might try to give us a little sneaky map, might do some kind of chalet or bank action to kind of upset the series, but no. They're going to go to Clubhouse. They're going to go to the tried and tested.
So it took my 3 brain cells to spool up kind of like a turbocharger for a second. The reason why Clash was banned was if we kind of go back to Poison Team Mystic, where Tones was on that team, Poison was kind of a Clash main. More so on Villa than any other map, and when Poison departed that roster, Toads picked up the role of primary support, and he was still using Poison strategies, so he was running Clash at that time. But to be fair, I haven't seen Tones and Clash in probably a month or so. But I guess it was just reaction ban, because let's be frank, sometimes Clash is the worst operator to deal with, especially if you have no utility. The same story can be made here going into a basement attack. If there is an armada of impact grenades, that hard breach utility, that coveted hard breach utility is just so difficult to use. Those Habana X Cairo pellets can be just removed by multiple sets. There are operators that have sets of impact grenades, particularly Malusi, but she's electing to bring the bulletproof, so you only have 1 set of impacts currently in play.
Yeah, and to be honest, impact tricking is something that has really fallen out of fashion. I wouldn't say completely in terms of hatch tricking, but wall tricking, oh my, never do we see that, ever. And here, I have something for you here. This is my hypothesis. Mute jammers, right? Only apply to the bottom section of the wall, but the impacts could go over the top. Yeah. Maybe we could see that be used as a possible combo trick to stop hard breaching.
I think what it also comes down to, like, if you're running like an operator like Thunderbird, who has Nitro and Impact, you're going to run Nitro because Nitro... Oh my... Our Nitros are more fun. It looked like there was somebody walking in, about to run out through Spa. That was just backsilly. It gave me a heart attack there for a second, because that was one of those R6 jump scare moments.
Always got to be wary. You don't want to shoot your teammate. I don't think the nerves really came down to that. Here is Malusi coming up. Gunner is Ben droned out. Should be easily eliminated by the player in Wolf. He's more focused on the one coming in from Garage. They will fail to capitalize on that move. Unlimited double checks the drone. Mystic have fallen off. They're not going to hold here for a little bit longer. Not really something you would expect from Gunner. You know, he got droned out. They know he was there. He falls back. He plays the site.
Well, our advice yesterday when Mystic was playing this map is we kept saying, Mystic, why aren't you roaming more? You just all anchored into the bottom side. Well, maybe if Mystic did exactly that with an opening gap against Baxley, we would have been more comfortable with anchoring. But Mystic was playing a lot more passive yesterday against Surf until they went for their full map roam, which eventually would work out for them. And to be fair, Mystic has wasted a lot of time, and they're nowhere on the second floor, nowhere on the first floor, so maybe it's more important to say that Gusic themselves has wasted time, because the vertical has barely started, you haven't really maneuvered any of those defenders, and you're starting to go into the final execution or the final planning phase of this round where you have to decide, I'm planting this spot, and we're going to have to start to go for this execute now.
Yeah, you really don't have a lot of time to burn. You don't want to let the Mystic defense kind of get set up on you. It seems like a church execute in the works. Mr. B looks like possibly self-flash by Teddy. Sweater thinking about the swing. I like this here from Newers. Just hide. Just wait. Teddy will step towards the wall. Clearly not aware of the Wamai. Now he is. As Newers pops up and he gets the kill. Here's Sweater. He had come out of nowhere. I'm not sure if that was down main or from 90. Amp left in the 1 versus 2. He had already gotten the kill against the Wamai. You have to isolate and win this fight. But no, the defender has already walked out against him. Puzzling that that was not a headshot for Amp. But either way, it wouldn't have mattered. They would have traded, and it would have been a situation with 1 defender left for Mystic. They win the round in both situations.
The other thing that was puzzling to me, Reese, was the fact of Gusic lost track of time, honestly, in that round. Like, they were going for the execute. They're actually pushing the bomb site after wasting well over 2 minutes, and Team Mystic still had absolute control of this site. None of the defenders were really put in awkward positions from the vertical. They were kind of in their, what I call their final resting places, the positions where the defenders want to stand and take those gunfights. To be fair, Gusic does do a great job of putting it to a 2v2, because Mystic, I think, got a little bit too carried away in their gunfights, but it really didn't matter when the diffuser was kind of isolated.
All right, well, CCTV is next. Probably Jim on the 3rd side, unless Gusic can pull something off here. How important is it that you win this CCTV objective? Because I feel like you kind of lost some momentum in the second half of Cafe, and I would like to see a more capable Gusic return to some of the form that they earned on the Cafe defense.
It's going to be extremely important, because one round that Mystic lost, or the one that Mystic lost their only showing on Gym Bedroom yesterday, and they went 1 for 2 on their CC yesterday as well. So that's what it comes down to, is Mystic comfortable holding this bomb site?
All right, well, as far as that thought is, we'll see if Gusic can act it out in the server. Unlimited is on the Finca, as compared to the Capital that we have seen Mystic are quite prone to on their clubhouse attack. I'm really looking forward to seeing that as we progress through the first split, but looking forward to a concept in the second. Teddy will evade the mute jammer by detonating the X-Kairos, if there even is a jammer. Not sure. Either way, that's the default placement for your X-Kairos, just to get that look up to the attic, up to the rafters, kind of check if there's any defenders close at the window. Ultimately, Mr. B is back to the hard breach game, and Gusic are progressing at a pretty normal rate. Looking through the wall, here's Amp, failing to collect on any players. I would watch out for Gunner, because he has a real tendency to play very aggressive inside server, as we saw in our cast yesterday, and I would expect him to do it again here.
This is a slow round once again for Gusic. They're doing everything that you'd expect a team attacking CCTV would do, opening up panels and garages so you can have more angles and a rotation into the bottom portion. You've opened up the plat wall. So those are your long lines of sight. Those are your crossfires. Those are those positions that kind of make the knees of Mystic start to just shake a bit. But Mystic is so aggressive over Garage. They're not shaking at all. And in fact, they're so aggressive, they find the opening kill, and that Sweater swinging onto Plat, winning a gunfight against a repelled defender attacker. This is something you don't see. And Gunner's stance is grand as well.
Wow. That is a way to get things going here. Amp is going to try to spot out the player at Rafters already. Looking for the fight is Doc. Toxic Babe, though, blocking the door, blocking the step forward. Sweater is down and killed by Mr. B, ostensibly from the main breach. In fact, there's the confirmation for you. And Mr. B now eyes up a second. That's Raptors cleared. That's Tones isolated here to the inside of Lounge, being shot at by Amp, with Teddy now being aware of it as well. Newer's last one left to defend the objective. Mr. B steps forward, already 2 kills on the round. Can he make it a third? C4 coming up from Tones to call in the detonation, but no, unsuccessful. The final 2 defenders stuck, trapped on the top of the red stairs. And though Tones does pick off 1, he fails to get Mr. B. The Maverick up for 3 on the CC attack, and that'll tie the game.
You asked how important CCTV defense was for Mystic. It was crucial in that round, especially after the brilliant opening stand of Mystic. They stood their ground, they took gunfights, and simply put, Reese, they won the engagements they had no business winning. But that's the problem with Cash CCTV. You are so active in that bomb site, and if you stand your ground, where do you go? Well, Garage is no man's land, so Gunner dies for free. We see the SMG-11 bro of Tones forced to fall away. Pardon me, his Sweater that round forced to fall away, but he can't really do so comfortably because CCTV is a no man's land. And that storyline is now replicated once again as the members of Mystic isolated on the red stairs. I honestly dislike CCTV for those reasons. You just can't comfortably defend it, and we're seeing some of the amateur teams that are, the name escapes me, who play this. Actually could have been Alabama Huntsville on Tuesday, who had the castle barricade, a Rooney Goyo shield set up in lobby lounge. And what made that such a successful defense was the fact that the attackers had to push below to make sure they don't die to Nitrocell.
Potentially a bit of a grudge match cooking up here between these two as the chat gets increasingly spicy. But I can't say for certain if it was Alabama and Huntsville that deployed that strategy. I do remember it, but I could not tell you for the life of me which strategy it was. Sweater on the spawn, peek attempt, and he'll tackle Amp to get it going. And there's the comment added in from Gunner as well. Sweater will search, hunting for a second, and he gets it. Makes it look like child's play. Sweater almost had a third, but just barely missed out on the opportunity. Gusic should be able to confirm this one. In fact, they will. There's Teddy to move it into the 3 versus 4.
Even after the 2 opening deaths that Gusic just faced, you have removed Wamai. And with the aggressive stance of Sweater, there's probably only 2 Wamai pancakes in the field of play. So that is somewhat of a sigh of relief for Gusic. They won't have to participate so much in the utility meta because only ADSs currently exist in sight. No Rooney needs to be seen. So when you start to face the Goyo shield that's isolated over and con, it's not going to be this big of a hill to die on, but it's still a factor in Tones' Aggron that was smoke grenades. And there it is, removed for free because of no utility defending it.
You gotta have some kind of form of coverage there, but it just wasn't. Doc, nothing to protect it. A C4 on the Logi hatch from Newers. I believe that must have been aimed at Mr. B, who now will make the process of opening up a single wall. Tones is going to toss a little Toxic Babe. That's a bit wasteful. But, no, I guess better use the Toxic canisters and hold on to him and die with them, as Tones has seen quite a number of rounds where he has died quite early without being able to fully use his utility. More so maybe on the attack than I would really say the defense. But more utility burn. It seems we might have found the primary area where all these ADS were at. Defending the shield closer to Master. The God 6 explodes, and that's the shield clear, and Tones goes down. So good that he had used that utility because he'll be the next one to go down.
How frustrating round would this be for Mystic Reese if they throw it after finding the opening deaths twice against Gusic, just like they did in the previous round in the Nitro cell, temporarily stalling Gusic, and now it's just Mr. B, the newly picked up primary IGL and primary support, forced to bring this round back. Final nade has now been used, but it doesn't find anything. He's just snaking at this point, Reese, and this is kind of one of those desperate plays, and since you are the IGL, Mr. B, take this opportunity to talk amongst your mates and start to correct this next time you go to gym. Again, Mystic, they've won this round at this point. You're just baiting for something, and he gives away the position since a slithering snake makes a lot of noise in Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah, the Jaeger read that one. Just pre-fired him. Took him out without any trouble. Mystic have the gym site defense. It was CCTV that fell, honestly, one of the better looking Gusic attacks right so far. I think if you tally them up, they don't have quite that many wins. I think that makes for just 2 this series. Their only other victory having been the rush they did on the reading site of Cafe, because they made up the majority of their rounds on that map on the defense half. So coming into this one, Gusic have a single round victory, right? But your offense first half, where one single round is never acceptable. I mean, obviously, it didn't help them only getting one in the previous game. That's kind of why they lost. But you're gonna need that here as well. I want 3 from Gusic right now before I feel comfortable, because this is their map choice, and we should have some raised expectations for them.
I think Mystic is better on the attack now. So if Mystic wins, well, what you recommended, 3-3 to the half, I think Mystic is going to be more comfortable pushing on to attack, because they are the team that is so aggressive. And sometimes on like a bomb site like Cash CCTV, being aggressive is beneficial, because those defenders, since they have nowhere to sit, they're kind of just getting like mauled down. And then sometimes teams, especially like low-level amateur teams, they have everything to go for an execute early on, and they're just too afraid to do so. And Mystic is never afraid to take a gunfight. Now, that kind of is a great transition point into the defense that we're seeing once again. No real roam strategy, no SSG roam, no mute jammers upstairs, no Mozzie pests upstairs. It's going to be another one of these anchored defenses, and if there is a roam, it's going to be just a slight one. You can see a couple of members of Mystic off-site, but they're more or less around stairwells, so they should be able to retreat if they get droned out.
And I'm imagining that call probably comes in relatively soon, but Gunner has isolated himself over to the, what do we always call it? What's the name for this area?
Dance party?
The dance hall, or the dance club, over in the southwestern area of the map, where Gunner has hidden himself away, but Unlimited through the wall. Back shot, big one there from Unlimited. Gunner will be slamming the keyboard. Was that a drone? Was that just pure instinct? I'm not quite sure which it came from, but that's the opener for Team Gusic, if it's anything. And now they're going to transition to hit the vertical, knowing that all defenders roaming on the map have been dealt with.
This is another opportunity for Gusic to start to speed up their attack. You've now dealt with Gunner, and it's pretty much a fair assumption to make that there are no more roamers, and you can do what you left off with in the previous basement round. Good vertical, maneuver the defenders away from B, the Arsenal bomb site, and once that has been freed up, start to use the utility to force those defenders even further away, and then go for your plan. I actually like the coordination of Gusic to be able to use the Hibana charges on the hatches, because it's always faster to open up a hatch with X-Kairos than it is with the Syria torch, because that seems just to take years to do.
Oh, it is really a very slow process. One thing I want you all to watch here is Baxley in Oil Pit. I feel like he could really be the X factor if Mystic aren't completely aware of it. Unlimited is being very slow with his progress towards Dirt. Baxley will give away his position with shots towards the player in Arsenal. And it seems like maybe the execute is on the way. Baxley's going to start to step in. Sweater smokes Amp. They have a check behind the generator. Baxley doesn't know about it. Doc reveals his position, but gets the Maverick. Still gets the pickups. Doesn't matter, though. It's 3 versus 1 with Tones trapped in dirt, with the Finka stepping towards him. The plant's coming in from Teddy. Quick on the rotate. Baxley wants to make sure that the SAS defender is covered in all of the aspects, and Tones just cannot get the kill for the life of him. Finally, Unlimited, who was so sneakily pushing through dirt, will reveal himself and show to us that Team Gusic closed it out on Church and Arsenal.
Way too aggressive from Gunner in that round. I think he was just feeling confident after getting the 2 opening deaths, or pardon me, 2 opening kills twice in a row. And in fact, it was round 2 and round 3 where Mystic found both opening kills and the secondary opening kill as well. And Gusic weren't able to recover from the previous round as a result. This time, though, I mean, a free yellow ping is all that's needed to remove Gunner. And then it's a 4v5 for the remainder of the execute. I mean, you have great players on Mystic, but be able to overcome that is just so darn difficult to do. They sure definitely tried, and maybe if Doc was looking in the right direction and removed the player of Gusic pushing down Oil Pit, it could have gone differently, but that's kind of just pointing fingers at the defending execute where it really should have gone towards Gunner for being too aggressive.
So Gusic show us 2. They could make it 3. I mean, they could do 4 here. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But, you know, they've shut down Mystic. They've showed them what's capable on that bottom floor objective. If only they had just secured that tertiary site, they would have taken the lead, and they would have been in the same position that they were when we were getting started on Cafe Dostoevsky. They would have had that 3-1 position. I believe that was before we went to the rehost. And fortunately, not where we'll be. We'll still sit in a position that is, I wouldn't say enviable for Gusic, but it's not, you know, you're not hating it. You're getting it going on the attack, which is tough against any team on defense. And though we made the point that maybe, yeah, Mystic are a little better on the offense with Gunner at the helm than they look defensively, you know, it's still certainly something. You got to win rounds in both halves. It's not a one-half game.
So this might be the exception to the rule at my favorite talking point, but I think it would have been better to go to the basement twice because, again, I believe the basement is a better site. Cache CCTV was definitely a bomb site or Mystic struggled. I mean, they found the 2 kills, but it was meaningless because the attackers had already hard breached. Now, Mystic has Kratos' strategy to deny that hard breach, and we saw the Nitro Cell be used, but it was just a little bit wide. Honestly, maybe if you use that Nitro Cell as soon as the wall fell, now, of course, Maverick had already done his job at that point, hypothetically, but at least he would have still killed that set of nades.
With the wall open, Amp will progress forward. He just wants to sort of clear out this last bit of soft walling. Spider goes down. He was main stairs. Found by Baxley. Of course, Sweater has a comment for it. You got to make sure every death is punctuated. And that's a point that we hit on earlier. Maybe better to do it in the Twitch, in the game chat than it is to, you know, scream out in the voice call. Why did I die to that? Where did he come from? But for Gusic, let's think about the way that they're getting set up. They've got somebody just on the first floor prone, sort of situated, waiting outside the map. That's unlimited. 2 of them coming in for a possible pinch. This honestly feels like a split take, or perhaps not really just a split take, which I feel like is not much of an idea that we talk about anymore, but a gym attack execute onto Cache with coverage at the main wall.
You always look where the diffuser is lurking, and that's kind of your indicator to what is going on. And something else to know what's going on are well-established flank drones. Melusi was pushing up the back stairs, and all of a sudden, with a preset drone, she's identified and now forced to fall away.
There's Teddy, makes it look very hot for Gusic, and Unlimited with 1 on the gunner as well. He was just waiting down by the bikes the whole time. And that has got to feel a little frustrating for the Melusi. Stones gets picked off. The final defender, Teddy, wow! Drags it across with the Type 89 to put 1 in. And there is the lead for Team Gusic, who pull ahead. And it seems like your point about going down to the basement, maybe that was just a better opportunity.
Well, now you're in a decision. Do you go to gym bedroom, a bomb site that you've won, or do you attempt to go downstairs to a bomb site that you've won once, but also lost once? The thing is, it's just kind of like the lesser of the evils. What was the better attack of Gusic? It was probably the basement round. So, okay, that's fair. You can go to gym bedroom, but also keep in mind why gym bedroom was so successful for Team Mystic is they found 2 opening kills. And we see this interesting trend. Round 2 and round 3, Sweater gets the opening kill. And then we see rounds 4 and 5, Sweater becomes the opening kill. So I'm going to leave you with this question, Reese. Does that mean Sweater is being too aggressive and too predictable?
I would say there's a chance, yeah, maybe. It's a fine line that you have to toe. But before I forget about it, we saw Gunnar mention it in chat that his dad is watching. So hello, Gunner's dad. Glad to see you're in the stream, supporting your children. Isn't that such a cool thought?
Right? I mean, I feel like over the past like few years, like parents are starting to get like more involved in like their children's esports activity, and that's honestly like the most important thing that we can have is everybody, like parents, family, loving their kids and supporting the activities that they want to do. Now, on the side of Mystic, they have support as well, and that's going to be coming from that utility. We see multiple deployable shields, a traditional shield from Smoke, currently Tones playing that operator, and then Gunnar is bringing out the explosive deployable shield. Well, Maya is making their return as well, Sweater bringing that out, and the thing we have to look at is, going back to round 3, Reese, those deployable shields got ripped apart for free because there was no my pancakes on the board whatsoever, because Sweater gets nuked way too early on. And speaking of the devil, Sweater is trying to get extremely aggressive. At least Gunnar finds the kill.
Yeah. Gunner's got one. Will he make it two? Almost has it there. Drone coming in as well. That's the signal for Gunnar to fall off, to give it up. Yutso Burn. Oh, no. Gunnar has not receded from these stairs. In fact, he's stalwart as ever, and he's preparing for a C4 toss against the members of Gusic. Another drone will come in out of Teddy, searching to see if maybe there is still players over by this red position. Gunnar is still hanging out there. Looks like they've spotted that shield as well, adorning the hallway. Gunnar really has no reason to give this up. He's going to continue to hold. He's going to continue to wait.
It's a slow round for Gusic. They're now just making the rotation over to the spa exterior wall. Now, normally we're seeing thermites be brought out to just rip this open up wide. What we saw yesterday in First Blood is you place the exothermic charge elevated high in the top portion of that wall, and it's able to bypass the mute jammer. Now, there is no mute on the side of Mystic, so you open up the wall for free, but it's at a great cost now, Reese, as the most of the server, at least on the side of Gusic, is starting to fall one by one.
Actually cuts one up quickly. A big kill in the storyline evermore in this round. Oh, we can't make it happen against the Smoke. A pretty sizable loss there. Tones will pull out the SMG-11. Actually puts a nade right up close and personal in the face of Tones. And Baxley on the hop in. Oh no, he fails at the hurdle. He can't get the player at the construction door. Sweater still on the long angle. Oh no, the missed opportunity to get the player inside the gym will yield control of the master bedroom. A possible plant in motion. Teddy getting ready for some kind of Logi play. He'll step in, instantly lasers Sweater, leaving it up to Newers. 1 versus 3 inside the objective. Lights up Teddy, who is in turn healed by the Adrenal Surge, and Unlimited will cap it off with the last kill out of the LMG as Team Gusic march forward with this round, putting them ahead by just 1.
Extremely unfortunate defense for Mystic. They did a great job defending the first 90 seconds of that round, and then Gusic realized that the bomb site was kind of compromised, and they were able just to start to vault in through windows, and the members of Mystic were looking elsewhere or involved in other gunfights, and since they got pinched from multiple angles from the initial push of Gusic coming in from cache CCTV, Mystic kind of just a little bit lost in the sauce that round. But as we mentioned earlier, Reese, Mystic is a team that is better on attack, and what we really are going to look for is how strong Mystic is now. If they start to fumble, if they start to crumble, we might be entering back into the Surf dynamic from yesterday's First Blood event, where they win map number 1, and then they fall short.
Well, if we're looking at that, I'll be watching too. I want to see. I want to be proof that Mystic are this incredible attacking force to be reckoned with. And I need convincing right now that Clubhouse is a good map for them, because 2 defense wins, that does not show it to me.
I mean, wait, let's go back to, did you listen to what Lycan said on CCS yesterday? He said, Clubhouse is the strangest map in the map pool right now. He said it averages out to a 3-3 split, but if you analyze individual games, there are some series where it goes 4-2 in favor of the defense, and some series that goes in favor 4-2 of the offense. And he said it just comes down to individual play styles and the way that rosters just want to interact with each other. And that's what makes North American Rainbow Six Siege so unique when you compare it to regions like EU, where North America is kind of stuck in a hybrid where they don't know if they want to be still in utility simulator or team deathmatch, where regions like EU and Latin America, they've committed fully to team deathmatch.
I suppose we are maybe a little late to adopt that in some regards here in NA, and I do see the point you make. Mystic have control of most of the map. Is this... I feel like maybe not the smartest decision by Gusic to give away control of the first floor with a very light contestion. I think maybe you would have probably gotten more value out of playing a more extended roam option rather than just giving it up immediately. Newers tried to clear dirt by himself with no utility against Mr. B. I mean, maybe there was a grenade from Newers, as you can see. Clearly something to damage to the smoke. But that seems like a little ill-advised. He's traded for it, so I don't think we'll have much grief on behalf of Newers for that death. But now you lose Sweater. Doc is on incredibly low HP. He's not really going to get much done inside dirt. And oh no, the impact grenade, and Baxley goes for the peek to put one in on the headshot. And now he's aggressed all the way out towards dirt. He's going to try to catch Tones in the rotation as the sledge starts to come in. He's not going to be expecting it, and Baxley with the perfectly timed aggressive move. Amp will punch the ticket. That's 5-2 now for Gusic, and the Mystic attack does not form on the first go.
All right, one attacker pushes in through dirt, Reese. They get smoked by Mossberg shotgun. So the second attacker walks in through dirt tunnel. They smoke the smoke, but at the cost of a lot of HP. And then they end up dying in that position. So Mystic then decides a genius idea. I'm going to stack a third attacker in dirt tunnel. But this time, since third time's a charm, it will work out perfectly. And, well, hate to say it, Reese, it didn't at all. I like how Mystic was fast in the attack. I like how Mystic had control of the main stairs earlier on, but they weren't able to do anything with it. They had some vertical. Sledge was doing work above, but it never forced any of those defenders away. It seemed like Mystic wanted to have this really fast attack, but since dirt tunnel failed, that was kind of the win condition. And since it wasn't available to them, they just kind of put bodies to solve the problem, and it didn't work for them.
So, with the stage having been set, Gusic are 2 rounds away from pushing us on to Oregon. You know, a map that, of course, Mystic are incredibly comfortable on. They have a solid record if you look back to some of the games that they've played in the past on it. And, you know, it's a map that's easy to be good on. It's easy to know, to understand. It's easy to practice Oregon, to get good at the basics and to master some of the things that are a little bit more complex. You know, thinking about executing on Oregon can be a little troublesome, right? If the defense are playing especially extended on the roam and it causes you to waste a lot of time, that's a good skill to have as a general level, but more importantly, you know, dialed in, focused on Oregon. It would be really helpful to have right now on this map, as Mystic had a very spotty attack execute that looked like it was lacking some backbone. It seemed like maybe there was some kind of failure to communicate a clear goal. Mystic tried. Was that a church take? Was that an Arsenal take? I mean, it seemed like maybe more pressure at the Arsenal site, but it was really hard to see the form and the structure there to talk about it in a more, you know, critical sense, other than giving it a very general sense of unsuccessfulness. Already losing Doc. That's not the way you really want to get started here, but I think they'll make do. The Cade Claw, wherever it is, doesn't seem to have really done much too far.
This is one of the nice changes that Rainbow Six Siege has introduced. With Doc falling earlier, you would say, oh no, there's only one Heart Breacher. What are we ever going to do? But now with 2 pocket thermite charges in the pocket of Capitao, currently playing by Tones, you can now open up the small wall, and it's almost like nothing happened. There's really no issue to be solved. Now, to be fair, those are smaller holes, but heck, you'd have an opening in that wall better than no opening. Now, Mystic, they suffer the opening death. They're trying to trade this back, but both teams, an aggressive stance, and now they're starting to feed Gunner.
A huge round out of the ace. Tones will put one in. In fact, that's two from the Capitao. A big round for both of those AR attackers coming into the gym site. What a way to give us some hope for them. To shock and awe on gym and bedroom.
It was almost a mirror image of the round 6 attack that we saw from Gusic, where Gusic is stalling out. They really are struggling to push in through the breach, and then all of a sudden we just see the armada of attackers flood on through. Very interesting that we see now both attacking teams almost have identical rounds. And I've been talking a lot about how Cache CCTV is an undefendable bomb site when the attackers have the exterior walls. Well, now it's starting to look like Gym Bedroom is starting to suffer some of those problems. The reason why Gym Bedroom was the preferred bomb site for certain teams was the ability to expand over towards the east side of the map. You go into Cache, you go into CCTV, you put a couple of reinforcements, deployable shields, Jaeger ADSs, and you can sit more comfortably. But now we're seeing teams go for direct executes like you would if you're going to the other bomb site.
Mystic are in a very familiar position. In fact, if you look back to Cafe Dostoevsky, I think we had this exact score, right? It was Gusic 5-3 against Mystic. In round 9, I believe that was Kitchen. Might have been. I don't know. I don't have it in my notes. But in that situation, we saw Mystic creep back with 1, creep back with 2, and then 3, and then they made it 4, and that was the end of the game. It was 7-5. And so for Gusic, ways to eliminate that potential. This is going to be a big round. Obviously, you don't want to let that lead drop. You don't want to lose ever in Siege. But it's a big round from Gunner, and also, more importantly, for Tones, who before that was at 1-7. You cannot let Tones start to get going on you, because I just think, you know, a Mystic with Sweater, with Newers, with Gunner, and Tones getting pickups as well, feeling confident in himself, it's going to be hard for Gusic to repel that.
We finally see Plat Wall now open up. That was something that Team Mystic actually were never able to do in the previous round because of the death of Doc. And Mystic is playing this slower. And what are you doing, Gunner, downstairs in the basement? Now, in the previous round, we saw the roam clear of Gunner through stock, and it seems like Mystic smells Defender lurking somewhere. They don't know where he is, and they're not droning Gunner in. Now, anybody on Mystic can call dibs in all chat to be able to get the claim of the Mossberg on the team kill.
That's not great. That's not what you need. You can't be team killing in such an important transitional space. Sweater has the intel. We know that Mystic are quite capable of hitting this site and hitting it with an exponential amount of force. One behind the bomb chassis. Oh no! Caught out in the open is Teddy. Unlimited traded back. There's one close at the window. Gunner, master of the AK-12. And somehow, among the flames, Teddy gets back up. But it won't matter as there's Newers. Mystic, twice in a row, the back-to-back defense. Both of them unsuccessful on Jim.
Absolutely no fear from Mystic on the attack. Not fearful of vaulting windows. Not fearful of having Gunner solo clear as a hard breacher downstairs in the basement. And it was almost an opposite attack. In the round 8 gym bedroom, it was a push in from the west side, which is through Spa. And then on this attack, it was from the east, which is through Platwall, and then as well as the vault ins. That was different. And Gusic, I think they were prepared for the same scenario. And this is why I like Team Mystic, Reese. They have multiple attacks in their coach's playbook, or at least in Gunner's IGL playbook.
I mean, he's got so many of them. I would imagine, you know, stuck up in there. Maybe not all of them are really applicable anymore in the current meta and with operators shifting, with utility changing, but You look at these players as we have them in the lobby, it's hard to find somebody more experienced than Gunner. And that's especially true when you match it to the context of who on Gusic can make better IGL calls and better reads than Gunner. One note about history between these two, Gunner and Mr. B were both around at the same time in EPS Season 5, which is a 2020 competition right at the end of the year. That's one big milestone I think a lot of people look back to judge how long you've been around for in the scene. Now, thinking of other players who were there at this time, I think Sweater might have been in Challenger League. I'm not the Sweater expert to really give you that answer 100%. Yeah, maybe Tones was around then. Perhaps Doc was there as well. I know Newers wasn't. But point being, Mystic and their leader, Gunner, have more experience and can make more diverse calling. 4 to 5. Gusic yet to move the chains.
I will say, I know the Englishman on the side of Gusic, Mr. B, is relatively new, at least when you compare him to Gunner. At least new to me. I mean, he emerged on the scene at the start of the year, as you were alluding to. Gunner has been here for well over a year at this point, and Mr. B has proven himself as an IGL. He's proven himself as a support player that can click heads, and I think that's something that a lot of players start to overlook, is IGLs that can shoot back are really a dime a dozen, because a lot of IGLs kind of just put on that role because they can't shoot back, so you're playing Thermite Smoke because those are operators that really don't gun. There's a reason why Mr. B likes to play Hibana, because Hibana, once done with hard breaching, could be one of the best entries in the game. Just look at Shaiko over in Europe.
It's a perfect example. Gusic, I think pretty much all eyes should be on them at this point. There's Gunner. What has happened in the second half of this game? Gunner has just been on a hot streak. You lose Baxley, you lose the opportunity to get the full value out of bringing an operator like Wamai, who, of course, has to be alive until near the end of the round to get the full potential of the utility. Grenade against the Banshee, the drone, which was quite close, does get out of position. Here's Decade, who marches down the hall. A foolhardy play. There's a rush in from Tones. Doc starts to come through the hall. Gunner, headshot on Unlimited. Newers is going to pitch the player at AKs. Doesn't matter if there's a shield. Doesn't matter if there's cover. If there's a deployable in the way. Mystic, just like on Cafe, have come back and tied the score.
Mystic, I think they just need to have a little bit of hot coals underneath their feet, Reese, for them to spring into action. Because the Mystic that we saw in the round 7 basement attack was scared, they weren't pushing, and they just kind of existed in the server until they had to actually do something. In round 10, Mystic did exactly what they wanted. They set the pace. They got the opening kill. They got fed and gifted the follow-up kill as Cade lost in the sauce. Who knows what he was doing? I mean, when you're going 5v3 on an execute, and even with defenders and still well-established positions like deployable shields over by AKs, it really doesn't matter when you have a tsunami of attackers starting to crash on top of you. And Mystic, with just pure numbers alone, are able to just steamroll into that round. And now for the first time on the Gusic defense, we're seeing cache CCTV. And if we see a similar attack to what we saw in Basement Gem Bedroom, this should be even more of a steamroll.
Yeah, this is, I think, maybe the point of no return. You win this round. Like, how many times have you seen Mystic get victories in regulation? They almost never have to go to overtime unless it's against another team, kind of in the general consensus of the top 5 in T3, which is a list ever-changing, never the same team more than a month in a row. And Gusic cannot let the match point happen. Like, you need it. You just can't let it happen. CCTV is going to have to be such a good-looking objective. Perhaps you come into this and say, we need to be a bit more reserved. But at the same time, if you're passive, that almost enables somebody like Newers to find the cracks, to slip in and do what Newers does best. But at the opposite end of the spectrum. I mean, Mystic, you're too aggressive. They're great at, isolating and singling out dumb plays like we just saw last round.
I love and I hate the strategy that Gusic is bringing out. Hate is the only wall denial, and he's been placed over in Garage, which is great, because that means you can't use any type of thermite charge, X-Cairo pellets in that position. Unfortunately, though, Maverick's in play, and that's actually easier for Maverick to kind of just slice and dice his way through the wall. No mute being seen, which means you can't really defend the main wall. And look at this nade dump, the fire dump from Capitao, and Gunner now finds 2, since he opened up the long range angle with all of his Selmas, 2 on the main wall and 1 on the garage wall. It is Mystic Reese just pushing forward. They're making this round easy. I think match point is almost guaranteed at this point. It takes an absolute miracle now for Gusic to be able to win. Maybe the vault of Mr. B was that miracle, but Amp at a 2v1 because that DB no unable to do anything. Mystic the match point.
And that rematch, the Mystic versus Surf Esports Grand Final that we were hoping for, that the prophecy foretold, is looking almost guaranteed with Mystic 6-5, with Gusic whimpering out of Clubhouse, losing round after round after round. Mystic are not relenting, and it is such a scary opponent to see against you in the server, to have Newer's Gunner, Tones, Doc, Sweater, all of them hungry for the win.
I don't know if I actually agree with Sweater there. I mean, the thing is, with Mr. B takes an engagement because he has to make a play. He sits up by red, he's gonna die to somebody swinging breach. Like, there's nowhere for Mr. B to play comfortably. Like, if you double stack defenders over in cash, well, the attacker is gonna free plant. And there's nothing you're gonna be able to do because you can't leave cash. I'd rather have a player make an argument to me, I made this really aggressive play. I know it didn't work out for me, but I made it so we had at least some type of fighting chance. I'd rather take that than have an absolute passive play and the defender say, well, I was kind of scared and I was gonna get it shut down anyways. The thing is, when you're going to match point, you have to do something. You have to be active, and like Gusic was in a bad spot because of the amazing plays we already saw for Mystic.
It's just been a ferocious second half. There's no way around it. Gusic have looked waterlogged. They have shown us really nothing. I mean, it doesn't take a lot to get Clubhouse defense under wraps. Maybe you say, not a Gusic problem, a better Mystic out in the server. You know, that's always something there. But Gusic, in hindsight, are going to realize that they've missed out on some real opportunities this game. Most of all, to put it on match point. Amp tried a little aggressive blue play there. I don't hate it, but it's not successful. It doesn't really garner anything good or bad.
This might be the round that sends Mystic over into the grand finals. Gusic is going to try everything they can to make sure that doesn't take place. They have plenty of utility on that bomb site. Melusi, Wubs, deployable shields, the ADS to defend all of that utility. Plus, once you start to incorporate the My Pancakes, it might be just enough to start to stall Mystic. Mystic has been undeterred upstairs in the kitchen. They've opened up that hatch. No sledge to be seen, so you really won't be able to take a lot of vertical. You still could be able to use those flat place breaching charges, and the Cade also slowing down Mystic, but every single hatch has now been opened up. So Mystic can now spend the next 90 seconds focusing on this attack and starting to focus on the push. Utility being used a little bit early, and I don't see the members of Mystic starting to, or pardon me, the members of Gusic starting to fall back because of that utility.
I think that might have been the moment for Newers to do it. Gunner in with one, Amp trying to fight back. MP5 attackers hoping to get inside the objective. There's the Capitao traded out after one against the Melusi Sweater. The Iana, such a valuable operator, immediately eliminated. Doc puts it into the 2 versus 1 unlimited to save the chances here in the semifinals to give us overtime. Gunner will adjust his position. Unlimited gives away his in the back of Arsenal. And Sean does not want to give away this opportunity. He adjusted the drone unlimited. A huge pressure moment for him. Gunner coming in. They know where the Jaeger is. He misses the pre-fire. And the Ace should be looking for the plant location. He will. Unlimited misses it again, but hits it with the final bullet in the magazine, making this winnable. But Gunner has completed the plant as the 2.0 times Optic and has the health advantage 100-1. Oh, but it's cut to a tiny slim, and Gusic are going to overtime as Unlimited trumps the 1 versus 2 against the odds without any hope in hell.
Mystic completely threw that round, Reese. They had the man advantage, they had the time advantage, and they even had the HP advantage. Unlimited, 5 HP to his name, 1 bullet of that 7.62 AK-12 would have been enough to finish that round, and Gunner walks to the middle of the room, Reese, out in no man's land, no coverage to be seen, and he gets picked apart by the 416 carbine. Gusic should have fallen in that round. They were picked apart. Mystic just won every single gunfight. I want to stress this. Unlimited should have been dead. He was free. He should not have been there. But against all odds, he comes back. And now Mystic, they face yesterday in First Blood. Overtime in a clubhouse. The one saving grace for them is Mystic does have a mulligan. They have Oregon behind them, but Mystic, they do not want to go into round 15 overtime in that coin toss of a round.
Oh gosh, no. You don't want to let it have to come to this. But Gusic, that is a huge rally point for them after losing round after round, just getting battered. Let's be real here. Losing the advantage and then having Mystic take, I think that was 4 in a row.
It was.
To get to that point. To get to 6-5. And then finally, after 4 rounds of a slumbering Gusic defense, the Giant woke up and Unlimited rose to the occasion. So now, in the first round of overtime, we're back at equal. Mystic have the double offense. The first round and the final in 15, should we get to that. Does this give an advantage over to Mystic, just given the sides that we've had today?
I would say so, because we talked about how Mystic is the better team on attack. We go back to yesterday, we go back today. I mean, Mystic's attacks just look more solid, and even if we include the whiff of round 12, I think that's more of just a random oopsie, because Mystic kind of just slaughtered everybody on Gusic until they found one facing them.
So with that understood, Mystic, it's gonna be a tough one, because I feel like Gusic haven't given us anything on their rotation so far. Like, it has been so sparse watching their defenses. I don't give Church really much of a credit after that round, because that was not a very capable closeout for the defense. It was a 1v2, it was a clutch, it was solid by Unlimited. Great for him, but that was not feel like a team win. That was the individual triumphing over the superior force in the attack. And I feel like going down to the basement, we need a more solid showing from Team Gusic. We need to look at this round and really take a hard, good long look at what is going to happen here. If what the defense has to their advantage, poor Gunner needs to get off the drone so the breaching charge can get called in. Have this little drone play they're trying to do here against Baxley. I wonder if almost maybe a grenade would be in mind.
Could, but my concern is Mystic was in the same scenario they were back in round 13. Pardon me, back in round 12, and then they started to stall. The vertical that they worked so hard to establish has now gone into the wind. And this is a change for Mystic. One of the first times we're seeing a deviation. They're putting more emphasis over on that Church triple wall, which has electricity on it. So you're only going to be able to use the Maverick torch. And Mystic is already barreling into the bomb site, Reese. They have the man advantage. They have control. And all you need to go for the plant. Where is Teddy? He's nowhere to be seen. He's lurking. He's crouching. But the swing will most likely give away his position. 1 to his name, but it's now the post plant. It won't be a replication of round 12. The only way it goes down that way, Reese, as if it's a complete throw, and it won't be. That's now once again Mystic going over to match point.
They're back in the same position. This time, 7-6. An absolutely monumental round from Gunnar. I believe putting in a 4K there. That's what it looked like. Gunnar was doing so much work. The kills that he got from up on the hatch, especially. That, I think, almost sort of drove it in there. Gusic, their defense, it just feels like Mystic kind of tugged the curtain and it falls. And Mystic overwhelmed. They have the defense here. Gusic, of course, empirically have been much, much better on the offense. But they have to win this one. And then they have to go under the most pressure of it all on another defense on a site. You know, Chief, what's the decision got to be for Gusic on what defensive site they play, even if we get to that? Because that just feels like an impossible selection to make. Their basement has been ugly. The top floor sites haven't been much prettier. So that'll be something. That's just a decision I would never want to have to make against Mystic, who we know Mystic can attack on every objective. It doesn't even matter. But Mystic have to show us gym bedroom defense. When you look at the pure numbers right now on this tertiary objective, what do Mystic have so far?
Well, it's a 1-1. They won it once, they lost it once. The same storyline is there for basement, 1-1. And I think Mystic is trying to experiment with bringing out gym bedroom because they saw how dominant they were on their attack of basement. So they're going to do the same thing. And I guess they're going to reverse engineer it because they don't want to go down to basement because they know how powerful it can be.
Yeah. Oh. Seems like whatever happened in chat has been worked out. They've gotten past it. Gusic. Their offense, it feels like, has come in from... I'm trying to think back. It's hard to wrap my mind around the tertiary attacking program that we've had from Gusic so far. Because didn't they went for the full clear. I do specifically remember that because I remember the battle between Gunnar on top red and the other Mystic defender whose name at the moment escapes me. That was inside of Cash. Somebody getting a little riled up there. It was Sweater trying to fight through the hard breaching hole out of the Maverick's torch.
A reminder, Sweater on defense. Found multiple opening kills, but not this time. Smoked into oblivion, far too predictable. Oh, that's actually Newers that fell. Oh, what were you doing down there, bud? Newers had every advantage going to that gunfight, and he just got smoked into oblivion. That was almost the point I was about to make. Sweater is either hot or cold with the opening deaths, the opening kills, and it seems like Mystic is now suffering the opening deaths. Gusic has everything going for them in this round, and Mr. B seems to be a silent assassin. Where are you, Gunnar? Do you not have a headset? Listen to that call. There's so much noise there. Doc and Tones, an aggressive stance, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, this is a gem bedroom defense, and Doc and Tones are on the other side of the map. If Gusic reads this, drones it, they rotate and play it for free.
Sort of using Cash as kind of the Alamo here, and I think they have read it and made the rotation. Teddy is in the site. Mr. B is the one with the case, but he's too busy getting his kills up. Doc searching for the Hibana. Ooh, gets a good look at him over inside logistics. You have to kill this Hibana faster, and he won't be able to do it. Gusic get on to the attack, and they get on with Clubhouse. As we go 7-7 and we get the very edge of it, the final round on Clubhouse to determine who goes forward.
I'm starting to get a little bit nervous here, Reese, because I'm having flashbacks to yesterday's Clubhouse Mystic, the exact same scenario, 7-7, entering into round 15, and Mystic, the same position they are now, they have to overcome if they want to put themselves in unified Premier Grand Finals in 2 maps. They have attack. That's the one saving grace that's going for Mystic. This series has been just attacker-sided. Basement is not being selected for Gusic, and this does concern me because it's been shown twice by Gusic defense, won both times by Mystic. This is a bomb site that Gusic has never been able to win, but where does Gusic actually decide to go? They have played basement 3 times, and they have won it 2 out of the 3 times. Jim Bedroom attempted once, and that was a stomp by Mystic, so I'm glad that Gusic is not going there, but this is a desperate play for a desperate defense.
Well, it certainly is fitting to have it go to Mystic holding out on Jim Bedroom and then right back from Gusic. Look, I don't have any criticism to give on the site selection because this is pretty much in the objective pick, a shot in the dark. You have to pick one. You need to figure out which of the objectives, the consensus, which of the team you feel most comfortable on. Baxley will begin the round with an attempted jump out play. As he prepares for it, this could get grisly for Mystic, or it could be horrifying for Gusic. Here's the play. The prep is there. Gunner's holding the angle. The rappel comes in. The bait, the mastermind, the hop out! And Baxley eliminated by Gunner. What a fundamental read! And there's another as well, as it turns to ashes in the mouth of Team Gusic. Down and out with two of their best playmakers eliminated.
Here's the thing with Gusic. We've seen them make this mistake before, Reese. When one of their players gets aggressive, gets smoked, they try to play the trade. When a player trading is even more aggressive, puts themselves in a bad stance, and then they find themselves in a 5v3. This has happened so many dark times this series. On attack, on defense, it doesn't matter. And once again, the Wrath of Mystic is currently facing all of Gusic. Now, Mystic, they have to start to slow down. They're going to start to open up walls, and during that slowdown, you should be able to capitalize on more members of Gusic who are still trying to bring themselves from the brink of destruction. A 2v5 race. This is looking almost guaranteed for Mystic, but remember the last time that we saw a guaranteed round from them, that was round 12, and Gusic was able to win that. With Frost Mats in play, maybe you get yourself a free kill, just like the W Shift Challenge there, Newers. That was not the play for you on round 15. Match point.
Oh, no. There it is out of Mr. B. He gets two. A 5 versus 2 looks impossible. 3 versus 2, now you're talking a little bit more winnable. Gunner had reached 20 kills by now. Could make it 22. Not quite enough for a UPL record, but still. Biblical performance out of him. Mr. B. Mr. B, look at that play. So aggressive, hoping, willing that the attacker would pop up for him. And if Ross is going to come through the rotate, perhaps try to flank out Tones, who is currently position revealed. This is starting to get awfully interesting. The head poked out by Tones. Mr. B already made 2 happen. Can he get the next few? Capitao in at the window. Mr. B does not go for it. Oh, but he does. He hops in through logistics, and he's ready for the jump out. He's going to play for it. Sweater's in a frostbat, but Mr. B can't make it back in the window in time. And Gunner steps up for his team. 21 kills on Clubhouse. And Team Mystic are headed to the UPL Fall Grand Finals.
Well deserved by Mystic. They came into the series, Reese, being the favorites to win. We were expecting a very dominant performance, even though Gusic is a wonderful contender for that Grand Finals. But a 7-5, and then all the way up to round 15 on Clubhouse, we see Mystic able to do it. Once again, Mystic, they were the better team today. They had better gunfights, and those opening kills constantly won rounds for Mystic. The fact that they had +2 mana advantages constantly, and the first 30 seconds of the round was kind of unacceptable. In the end, we see a great play for Mr. B, but there's never a scenario. You're on round 15, and Mr. B has almost aced against you. It was so close, but Mr. B should have never been in that scenario. He should have had more teammates surrounding him.
Yeah, I mean, you look back at that and you just imagine the situation, how different as it is if Baxley is alive to contribute to help, but he's not. He goes for the high-risk, high-reward play, and there is no risk greater than spawn peeking on match point, as you allude to there. And wow, what a series for it to only go 2 maps. I'm sure, everybody watching in the Twitch chat was hoping that we get the third, that we go down, and we get that storyline that really goes to the very end. But we got an extraordinary match today on Clubhouse, one of the best I've watched in a long time, and really an awesome storyline for Gunner. His dad watching just in the other room to see him go 21. Congratulations, Mr. Potteroff. You've really you've born a true legend in the T3 scene, and I say that with authority today. But they're going to the grand finals. It'll be that rematch that we just had in the summer season, and what a way to get into the postseason.
I'm so excited for that rematch that's taking place on Thursday. Bad news, Brian enters once again, though, Reese. No game tomorrow. The third place match is taking place at 4 PST, 7 EST. And then that grand finals Thursday, 4 PST, 7 EST. On behalf of Stickula and myself, thank you so much for tuning in today. Kaz, our observer, Tango Mango Down, our producer. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back with you with another beautiful game on Wednesday. See you then.